How's it going? Happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy Tuesday. If you were on here, please hit that like button, tag anybody on this discussion, and share it with someone that you think may find it interesting. Y'all know the drill. Um, Today's conversation topic should be interesting. I titled it "Do Black Women Cheat Better?" But really, what I want to do is just dig a little bit deeper into just cheating, what's going on in Black America when it comes to men cheating, women cheating, why do they do it, and how is it perceived? So I'm excited to have a special guest, Mami Obsidian Ali here, who has done a lot of research just about cheating in this whole topic, the way it is handled, the way it is not handled, and I think it should be good. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him up, and we will begin the conversation. What's going on, Bella Riggs? So good to see you. What's going on, Eugene? Okay, let me bring him on. Hey.
Yeah, how you doing, Sade? And Happy New Year. And,
Thank you.
yeah, this is good. I'm glad to kick off the year with such a classy lady. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. Pretty good. Glad to be here. I know this has kind of been a long time in the making. So
Yeah, yeah. Given how I've been kind of on Derek Jaxn like a cheap suit. Yeah, it's about
really,
7 years in the making.
I
So
think I think my introduction to you as your channel was like Derek Jaxn. I don't know if that was like one of the first
yeah,
videos I saw,
yeah,
but
it was. It was. I even took a part of the video that you did. I went and converted it to an MP3 audio and then put a nice photo of you over top of it to use as part of my intro. And where you're talking about, one of the things that I really found out about Obsidian is he's probably the only person who has been this persistently on Derek Jaxn like this for years and years and years. I always get a kick out of that every time I listen to it.
well, I mean, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I still to this day, I don't know anyone else who has covered it with the amount of fervor and consistency you have. So shout out to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun doing it, and I'm not even going front. It was been hugely satisfying to know that I was right from day one. Hugely satisfying, and that's something wrong with my avatar, and I have to fix that. But yeah, because it's not showing up on your end. Am I right?
No, I see you fine.
Yeah, but it's not showing up on YouTube unless I did
Oh,
this wrong.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's weird. I'm able to see you, but you guys let me know. Are you guys having any issues with his photo? Let me
Yeah,
know, guys, in the
let's
chat.
try another one. Let's try
Okay,
another
yeah,
one.
we
See
can
if
try
that
that
works.
one.
Yeah. But in any event, but yeah, it was hugely there we go. So yeah, it was hugely satisfying that to know that I was right all along. So
Well, you know what's interesting? What's going on, Hakeem? Good to see you. And also shout out to Hakeem for the $7.50 on the also, I want to shout out Anthony Lewis. I saw some love come through earlier today. I don't know if you were here. Thank you for the generous cash app I see for Black women love getting scammed. Yes, and it's actually perfect that you said that, Mr. Lewis, because this brings me back to the video I did a couple of weeks back where I was talking about how Derek Jaxn, I mean, by now we all know that he's a cheater. He's cheated multiple times, but in some way, my theory is that his reputation for cheating makes him now more popular among the ladies. It's kind of like this herd mentality that I think is quite innate to female psychology, and as a result, this is why I don't think he's. It's not like he's not going to have opportunities anymore. If anything, he probably has more opportunities with some women because he's now being seen as desirable. And so when I idea of cheating, right? And not only why men and women do it, I think you break that down in your book,
yeah,
but how men cheaters versus women cheaters are perceived, I think it's quite different. But I mean, I know I'd like
yeah,
to hear your thoughts on
yeah,
that.
yeah. You're right. Going first to Jackson, there is a concept that is in the pickup artist world. Now, I don't suspect that you know much about that, but in the pickup artist world, there's a concept known as preselection. It's based on evolutionary psychology and evolutionary biology. And the idea goes like this: males who have proven able to get mates, because females are much more pickier with mating than males are.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, if a male is able to get mates, that's a signal to the other females that there must be something about him that makes him better than all the other guys who have a tougher time getting mates.
Right.
And women and females across the animal kingdom have kind of been hardwired because females have such a large list of requirements in order to mate with someone. It's obviously a very detailed list, and you'd be really sitting there all day trying to go through all that. So what the human female mind in particular has evolved to do is to look for heuristics or shortcuts. And one of those shortcuts to finding a proper mate is getting with a man who's already proven that he can also get a mate. So this is the reason why, for example, and you might have heard of this, maybe you haven't, but there's a kind of a urban legend, I guess you could say, of a man not being able to get anybody when he's not with anybody. But as soon as a man gets with somebody, then all the women are on him. So like married men in particular are kind of like magnets for other women, mistresses and stuff like that. Well, that's pre-selection. That's what's working. I agree with you. I agree with your assessment. I think that this may very well read out to Derek Jackson's favor, to tell you the truth. And it is a hell of a commentary on where we are in 21st century Black American dating and mating life. It's a powerful commentary.
Well, see,
yeah.
Well, and I was thinking, this is one of the things I noticed too. I feel like today's culture, at least in America or in the West, it's so many things are about being progressive and trying new things that in theory have never been seen before, trying to redefine gender norms, trying to redefine norms in general, redefine what feminine masculine is, all this stuff. But I'm thinking it's like, you can't undo like thousands of years of hardwiring of like human behavior and human evolution. And so we'd had this, I think, conversation when I called into your live a couple of weeks back, and we were talking about what women want, what they say they want in relationships, and what they're bargaining for, versus whether or not men actually want what women say that they are now trying to create as this like new like family. And so even when you look at like cheating, for example, right? My husband sent me this right before I went live. He was like, women look at Derek Jaxn cheating, they think he's attractive. Now they find him more attractive. Men look at maybe Gabrielle Union, right? Who said that cheating justified her. They see her as attractive physically, but now they see her as less attractive.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And the reason why is, again, rooted in evolutionary psychology and evolutionary biology. For females, it's called paternity uncertainty. For females, having a child, historically speaking, is almost always going to be her kid. And there's no doubt about that. But it's always a question as to whether or not the daddy is the kid. Is the kid is the daddy.
Yeah.
And so that's the main reason why. That's the fundamental reason why there's the quote unquote double standard. There's the double standard that exists for a very good reason. And that reason is rooted in our biology. Mama's baby, papa's maybe. So a woman that cheats on a man is bringing in the very real prospect and threat of cuckoldry. Whereas if a man cheats on a woman, cheating is wrong, immoral, our morality kicks in, and there is, threat of STDs, threat of outside children, and so on. But if he has a child with her, it's her kid, no doubt about it. So that's the main reason why Gabrielle Union is looked down upon by most Black men, whereas Derek Jaxn, at the very least, is seen as neutral, and depending on who you ask, is actually seen as mildly more favorable and attractive by Black women. So.
Interesting. I never thought of it that way. So you're saying the fact that the ownership of the kid has a lot to do with how the adult is perceived in that situation, provided a kid does end up being born.
Yeah, definitely. And again, that's all rooted in our evolutionary psychology and evolutionary biology. So that's the main reason for the double standard. Will that change? The very nature of evolution is about change.
Yeah.
But change happens very slowly, over a long period of time. So, there could very well come a time where what we're talking about right now just no longer is an issue in the story of humanity. But I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah. So do you think women cheat better?
Yeah, that's been a another truism that I examined in the book of Obsidian, the ladies edition. We also nicknamed it the Red Book. I'll also call it my oops baby because I didn't plan for this one. Um, and yeah, there's this notion among ladies that they cheat better than men because they keep confidence is better, they're more meticulous and less sloppy with regard to the details of their cheating and so on and so forth. I am not aware of, not to say it doesn't exist, but I'm not aware of any like scientific information on that.
Yeah.
Uh, I remain somewhat agnostic. But I have an even better question.
Hmm.
Why would women take pride in the fact that they can cheat better than men do? Because
Exactly.
it's still cheating.
Exactly. No, I
That you can do it in particular and get away with murder, assuming that's true. Why would you be like? I wouldn't be proud of the fact that I can embezzle money better than other people. I wouldn't be.
yeah,
I mean, I might be able to do it. That might be true, but I wouldn't be like blaring it out and making a big deal out of it and wearing it as a badge of honor. I would keep that to myself. To be brutally frank.
absolutely. No, I agree. I don't think it's necessarily anything to I don't think it's really anything to brag about. Um I think there's different reasons to it. One of it is this consistent need to compete for men or to compete for what is perceived as masculinity. Oftentimes, I think toxic masculinity at that we see going on between the genders. I think is one reason we see women coming out and basically beating their chest about things that
Yeah,
isn't really that great.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
um, yeah, I honestly can't say that I get it. I don't know if anyone in the comment sections has anything to add to it, but I don't think it's really anything worth bragging about. I did want to play. My bad. I'm sure you heard it by now, but I wanted to play more briefly the snippet that Gabrielle Union did maybe like a week or so ago, where she was talking about how she felt justified
Yeah.
in cheating, and I don't know if that may help add a little bit more to this conversation or provide I don't know some context. So let me bring it up really quick.
Yeah.
Now let's see. Okay.
Felt like the marriage should get in the way of our dating. And so
Oh my God. That sentence
was
like
identical. I was keeping up with his activities. And I was like, oh, that's what you're doing? Oh, you're going to feel this one. And
okay.
I just felt entitled to it as well. I was paying all the bills. I was working my off. And I felt like that's what comes, the spoils of riches.
Yeah.
And like my dad before me, whoever has the most gets to do whatever the hell they want, is what I thought.
Yes.
And it was just dysfunctional from day one.
Yeah.
Our first.
So you heard that. You know what stood out to me? Like
Yeah.
my dad before me, whoever holds the most, whoever has the most, basically gets to set all the rules.
Yeah.
It was very that entire monologue to me sounded very masculine, for lack of a better term.
Of course. It was funny. I was having a conversation about this. We may do a podcast about this.
Mhm.
We were having a conversation. Me and Bass Brown Sugar were having a conversation about this over the weekend, and we were talking. We weren't talking about the Gabrielle Union situation per se, but we were talking about how a lot of Black women really have a problem. They don't like the fact that they're women and don't like the fact that they live in a world that's been built and constructed and administrated by men.
Yeah.
And there's a character, and I don't expect you to know about this. Maybe you do. There's a character in the HBO fantasy show Game of Thrones, right? Named Cersei Lannister.
Mhm.
And she is the queen to Robert Baratheon, King Robert.
Mhm.
And she, though very beautiful, she's considered one of the most beautiful women in the country,
Mhm.
or in the realm, I guess you could say, in the Seven Kingdoms. She nevertheless doesn't like being a woman. And the
Mhm.
reason why is because she sees being a woman as weak and being kind of at the whims of it. And Westeros is no doubt a very patriarchal society, no question about it.
Okay.
It's ran top down by men. And she doesn't like that. And much of the show, which is based on George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire novels,
Mhm.
much of the story in the show is about Cersei trying to find ways to kind of circumvent, to be brutally frank, patriarchal power and influence in a patriarchal society.
Mhm.
And Miss Brown Sugar and I agreed that in many ways there's an interesting parallel between the fictional Cersei Lannister and many black women, which is exemplified in what you played there with Gabrielle Union.
Mhm.
That a lot of black women see the patriarchal norms, both white and to a lesser extent, or maybe in varying ways that are a bit different, black patriarchal norms as deeply unfair and deeply just deeply unfair. So a lot of black women seem to want to kind of one up a lot of brothers. And this is nothing, this came long before Gabrielle Union came along. The idea that black women out earn black men, black women go to school more than black women, that sort of thing. And in our society, he, and now increasingly she, who has the gold makes the rules. So there's a serious power struggle going on right now in black American life as to who calls the shots, who leads, who gets to be the top dog, that sort of thing. And
Mhm.
it's pretty profound to watch.
I honestly don't know that women are prepared to be equal. If feminism saw the end, right? It was able to win. It was able to win in all regards, and the society was truly equal. And ideas of protection were gone. Ideas of chivalry were gone. Ideas of ladies first are completely gone. Ideas of any of these benefits that women have for being a woman are gone. I just don't know that women would really be able to handle that. It would be a huge shift. And quite frankly, I think it would go against biology because what you said assumes that women are attracted to men who make less than them or attracted to men who kind of have this equal, I'm going to do whatever you say kind of mentality. And many of them aren't. I mean, she even said that. What men do you know out there that says, oh, because she made less than me, then I felt justified in cheating? That's not nothing that you really hear. Usually it's like
No.
it's kind of expected that men are going to provide. That's just a societal expectation, and if he cheats it's because he has a problem. But her being justified because well, he made less than me, as if he did something wrong. Already we're seeing there is an imbalance in how the societal expectations are different. That's what I'm just like
It is interesting. I didn't write this in the book. It'll be in volume 2 of the Book of Obsidian, the ladies edition. There will be a volume 2. There's a really good scholar originally he's from Ireland.
Okay.
Excuse me, in the UK. His name is William Costello, and he now is a doctoral student of the great David M. Buss out of University of Texas at Austin. He's the author of many books, but best known for his book, The Evolution of Desire, Strategies of Human Mating, which I cite frequently in the Book of Obsidian, the ladies edition. William Costello finds that when women significantly out earn their partners, their mates, their husbands or significant others or what have you, that the threat of domestic violence on the part of the mate, the husband, the significant other, significantly goes up. Matter of fact, goes through the roof. That's number one. Number two finding is that when women can significantly, I keep saying consistently, significantly out earn their husband or mate, the threat of cheating on the part of their husband or mate significantly go up. That's the second finding. The third finding is that when women significantly out earn their husband or mate, significant other, the risk of her having to fake it in bed goes up. So, and of course, when a woman significantly out earns her husband or mate, the threat of a breakup or divorce significantly goes up. So yeah, go ahead.
So basically, you're saying if a woman ends up with a man who makes less than them, they're going to be all these now significantly less than that. Maybe not like a few dollars or a couple $1,000s, significantly less than them.
Well, we can put a number on it. One of the great things that I love about social media in the 21st century, and I can toot my horn here, my own channel. I got some really smart guys that listen to the show, that contribute to the show and support me over on my channel. There's a gentleman by the name of Chris Hutchinson, went to Wayne State University, works in IT, is a successful realtor on the side, family man, been married for years, couple kids, really solid, rock solid guy. He went and crunched the numbers, being inspired by the work of BGS Idmore, another like elder statesman of the Black manosphere type. And he had laid down some very interesting factoids based on some research he had did. Chris went back on his numbers and found that they were legitimate, but he then went and took it a step further, which is that essentially the magic number is 30%. So men, when they tend to make 30% more than what their women make, that's when they tend to get married. For women, so and for women, that's when they tend to accept marriage proposals, when that magic number of 30% or more is crossed. So a man making 30% more than what his woman makes seems to be the magic number. So if you reverse that number, if a woman is out earning her man by at least 30%, that's when you're going into the danger zone. I'm thinking of when Kevin used to play the little sound effect. I don't have it here. But yeah, going into the danger zone, 30% or better. So if a woman out earns her man by 30% or more, now you're in the red. You're in the danger zone.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, you said this is something that one of your followers came up with.
Yeah.
30%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and so so then do you think that then women being hypergamous and women saying that they're only going to date a man who is worth or making a certain amount of money, then you would say that that is valid or perhaps healthy based upon the details that you just shared?
Yes. Hypergamy, and I know it's kind of gotten a bad rap. It kind of seen as like a 4-letter word among many in the manosphere and red pill sectors and stuff. And I understand why, because like anything, hypergamy can be weaponized or abused, or used or misused. But when you look at it from a dispassionate evolutionary perspective, it's essential to the furthering of not just the human race, but life on planet Earth. If the female mated with suboptimal males, humanity ends. It's essential that females mate with the best possible males out there. Now, of course, that comes as cold comfort to the males who don't measure up, no doubt. But nobody said that evolution was fair. And it does have its ruthlessness about it. The goal is to get your genes into the future by hook or crook. So for females, it's in their interest to mate with the best possible man they can get. That's just bottom line. So from that perspective, hypergamy is definitely a good thing. That's just how that goes.
Interesting. Now you so I agree that hypergamy has gotten pretty much a bad rap over the last couple of years, social media or whatever. But based upon the information that you shared and different scientific evidence, it's a lot more natural than I think a lot of people are willing to admit. But I think where it's getting complicated now is, again, we have biology, which is the way that men and women naturally operate. And then you have this, I think, quite frankly, unnatural system that we exist in the West, whether you want to call it feminism, whether you want to call it modernity, but you have this culture that very much goes against biology, because it's like, okay, we already know the exchange in the dating and mating market. Okay, it's beauty for wealth.
Yeah. Beauty, and we have to say this, beauty, so that we're clear, beauty being a shortcut of its own. Men also have heuristics that they use in the mating dance, and one of them is visual cues. So men actually have sharper vision than women do. I don't know if you're aware of this. Women have sharper hearing than men do, but men have sharper vision than women do. And there's been theories about this. One of the theories that have been advanced for why men's visual abilities are so much sharper than women's, one reason, it's not the only one, but one reason is because they can more quickly size up a woman's reproductive potential and capacity just by looking at her in a matter of seconds. It's just seconds. They can make an up or down vote in seconds. So the beauty is directly related to reproductive capacity, and this is the reason why nowhere on planet Earth at no time in the history of humanity have postmenopausal women ever been chosen as more desirable than nubile women, and never. And the reason why is because of reproductive capacity. So youth and beauty, their beauty cues: long hair, neonatinous features, clear skin, bubbly personality, kind of like the bobble-headed blonde or dumb blonde. Waist to hip ratio, supple breasts, all that sort of stuff. All those things signal cues of high reproductive fecundity, and the exact opposite of those things signal low reproductive capacity. And men who got with women who had low reproductive capacity are no longer here. They are not our ancestors. Our ancestors are the men who were pretty ruthless in getting the most nubile women they could find. And when we have historical evidence bearing this out, Genghis Khan, for example, I think he's father of 20% of Asians, considering that there's a whole lot of Asians on the planet, especially China. Mongolia is, part of China, or not part of China, but in the same neighborhood as China. I'll put it that way. Considering just how many sheer number of people in that area of the world today, that's a hell of a feat. And he's not alone. There have been all kinds of very rich and powerful men, sultans and sultanates and kings and, tribal chiefs, Africa, tribal chiefs and all that sort of thing, that get lots of young, nubile women. And that's how it goes. So, yeah, the beauty piece is a shorthand for a woman's reproductive capacity in evolutionary terms that men can size up in seconds.
Which is why pretty privilege is a thing. Men don't really.
Very much so. Very much so. Pretty privilege definitely is a thing. And, it's interesting about pretty privilege. It's a very interesting, I don't know if Black women coined the phrase or they got it from somewhere else. I'm not sure. But I've heard, the first time I heard it mentioned was from Black women. So it is interesting to hear that phrase, because pretty privilege is real, and it speaks to something a lot of Black women seem to be have a lot of anxiety about, and that is intra sexual competition between and among women. A lot of Black women seem very anxious about the idea of competition of any kind. And that just runs counter to everything that we know from an evolutionary perspective. Women compete for mates just like men compete for mates. Now, they don't do it the same way. You don't see female rams, banging heads on a mountain. They don't do it that way. But there have been studies of primates, for example, our evolutionary cousins, because a lot of people don't know this. We are primates too. We're animals and we're actually primates. Our evolutionary cousins, chimpanzees and baboons and stuff like that, the females have been known. I hope you don't mind me using this phrase. Cock blocking. You might have heard that phrase before. Cock blocking. Well,
I think I've heard of that before. Yeah.
Female primates like chimpanzees and baboons, they've been known to cock block other female baboons from mating with the alpha males, or if they'll be mating with the alpha males, and they will deliberately disrupt, the coitus interruptus. They'll deliberately interrupt it, stuff like that, because that's a sign of, female competition. Another sign of female competition that does happen among women, it's much less so than men, is fights. There are female chimps that will fight other chimps for a male mate, for an alpha male mate. And that happens with baboons and stuff like that too. So my point is, and those are just, some of the more extreme examples of female on female competition for male mates. But the more common, especially among humans, the more common form of competition is slut shaming. Ironically enough, slut shaming, fat shaming, you know what I mean, you know, the derogation of competitors, the put down, you know, she's a hoe, you know, that's sort of why you want to deal with that hoe and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's very, very common and often very effective.
Very, 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 very interesting. Yeah, I covered this off on a video that I did a while back on like why I think pretty privilege is worse than colorism, which I really do, because I rarely hear. I mean, not to say that you don't have dark-skinned women who will have their experiences, who have had their negative experiences with colorism, racism, whatever, but it's not to the same complaints that you may see, you know, a out of shape, perhaps. I'm trying to be nice here, but you know what I mean.
Well, you know, what's interesting about the colorism argument is there's a evolutionary psychologist originally from Brazil, raised in Texas, taught in the UK, and now last time I checked is back in the States with her husband, who's also an evolutionary psychologist in New Mexico. Her name is Diana Fleischman, and her husband is the legendary evolutionary psychologist Jeffrey Miller, who wrote the classic The Mating Mind. He also wrote the book Mate with Tucker Max. And she's supposed to be writing a book right now about how to train your boyfriend. And it's about the interesting title. It's about how
to train your boyfriend.
yeah, that's the name of the title. Title of the book is supposed to be that. And the premise of the book is how females have evolved to basically Lady Macbeth men, if that's a phrase. And are you familiar with the Shakespearean play Macbeth?
I've heard of it. I've never actually read it, but I have heard of it.
Yeah, Macbeth, Lady Macbeth, who is the wife of the king, kind of you know, is the power behind the throne, kind of goading him into doing various things. And she makes the case that women, because of their physical limitations when compared to men on average, are not able to just, you know, might makes right their way through the world. So they have to be much more savvier. And so they have evolved various psychological mechanisms and adaptations to manipulate others, and particularly men, into doing what they want them to do. So yeah, it's very interesting to see all this play itself out. And a lot of women are successful in manipulating men and other women often. There are women that are very, very good at it. And often in our time today, those women can and often do wind up being very influential on social media, interestingly enough. So
surprise. Shout out to you. I see you do a couple of reason. Good evening, Shay. Good to see you. Salute. Oh man. Thank you again for the support.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Unsolicited security boss. Hey Shay, Obsidian in chat. Good to see you.
Hey, wait a minute. I know you. You're the lead attorney talked about you. I know you. What's up? Yeah.
She's awesome. I'm supposed to be bringing her on pretty soon for another live, so stay tuned.
Yeah.
So okay, so you mentioned a few things, and I guess going a little bit backing track a little bit to this whole topic of cheating and how it impacts women, how it impacts men, how they are perceived as a result. Would you say that looks, do you think that looks or attraction play a role in how many times a woman is able to cheat?
Yes. That does play a role without question. Better looking, we're going back to the pretty privilege argument. Prettier women will have more opportunities to defect from a relationship, especially if they're in a situation like Gabrielle Union. Okay. Now what's interesting about her situation is that this was prior to her getting with Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
Who is, he was basically for all intents and purposes a Hall of Famer. Basketball player. So he's not only elite in the sense that if you compare him against all American men, he's successful, but even among his peers, that is to say his fellow NBA basketball players, he's elite among them. So she has a very high status man.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that it will always be that way. Things change over time.
Yeah.
And make value changes over time. But as it currently stands, she's probably maxed out in terms of, she's probably hit her ceiling, her hypergamous ceiling, in terms of what she can actually get out on a mating market. It probably won't get any better than Dwayne Wade for her. Now, prior to Dwayne Wade coming along with this incident of her cheating, which was on a previous husband.
Yes, to my knowledge, yeah, it was a previous husband.
Right. So the previous husband, the fact that we can't even think of who he is, I don't even know who this guy is.
I think from what I read, it sounded like he was an NFL player, but then I got confused because she had alluded to the fact that she was paying for everything. And I'm like, NFL players aren't broke. And you've never heard of him. So
and we never, exactly, that's my point. The
Yeah.
fact that we don't even know who he is gives us a clue that of his relatively much lower status. And and what I meant to say earlier, and this gives me a chance to bring it up.
Yeah.
Studies have been done over the past, say, 3 decades that has seen that cheating has skyrocketed among women as they've gotten more education, going into the workforce, making more money, and so on and so forth. It's skyrocketed like an astronomical number in the past 30 years. Here it is. The UK's Daily Mail reports similar findings that since 1990, female infidelity has skyrocketed a whopping 40%.
Wow. What was? Can you send that to me? Or maybe
it's in the book. It's in the book of Obsidian. You have a copy of it. It's on page, I believe it's on page 37. Okay, chapter 3 on Black women cheating. Yeah.
Maybe I'll go back in because I remember you talking about the different reasons that Black women cheat. And I don't know if maybe you want to just kind of let the audience know, but what was surprising was the reasons are largely are largely the same. That's from what I gathered, that men and women essentially cheat for the same reason. Now there's obviously there's going to be different, I think, things that lead to it. I think women tend to be a little bit more emotional by nature,
right?
Whereas men, it may be a little bit more biological by nature, depending upon the context.
Yeah.
But you still have women at the end of the day who just, want to exercise their options. They maybe want to get somebody back. Like there's still some very shared reasons that men and women both cheat. And I found that to be very, very interesting.
Yeah. The findings that I got my findings from some researchers who are Black women.
Oh,
and, they're Black women.
Surprise.
And the name of the study was called Black Women with Multiple Sex Partners, the Role of Sexual Agency.
Oh, yeah.
And it was Stephanie Campos, Ellen Benoit, and Elise Dunlap. And they did it, and the study appeared on the National Library of Medicine's National Center for Biotechnology Information website. And it dates back to 2016. But they had a small sample size of about 50 Black women, in-depth interviews in New York City. Nevertheless, it was a lot of valuable information. And I was surprised to find out that the ladies cheat for reasons that are not that far off different from the reasons that men cheat. There are some differences, but there's a lot of similarities too. Yeah.
Do you think with the rise of cheating among women, that you're going to start to see more leniency when it comes to cheating, or are we still going to see men largely be demonized, and yet at the same time, it's like this weird balance of they're going to be demonized, and yet they're also going to be seen as more sexually attractive?
Well, that all depends. I think that the Jaxn, what's really interesting about the Jaxn story is that his actions have really kind of sparked, in my opinion, a long overdue dialogue and conversation about infidelity in Black American life, starting first and foremost, and rightly so, with Black male infidelity. A lot of brothers don't like to hear this. I talk about it in the book. I talk about it in both books, my book for the brothers and book for the sisters. But since we're talking about the latter, I know a lot of brothers don't like hearing this, but the facts be some stubborn things. Black men cheat more than white, Asian, or Hispanic men by a wide margin. I mean, I think the number for Hispanic men is, if that, 15%, whereas for Black men it's almost 30%.
Mm.
So, and this is when we're talking about marriages, we're not even talking about relationships, non-marital cohabitation, and that sort of thing. We're talking about jumping the broom, getting papers, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's like 30%. So yeah, this is a problem that black men have got to confront. That being said, before the cheering starts, ladies, black women, they cheat more than white, Hispanic, or Asian women, and their numbers is in the 20% range. So yeah, there's a real opportunity here, and I had no idea this was going to happen a year ago. If you'd have told me this time last year that we would be talking right now as a result of Jaxn's numerous affairs and hypocrisy and fuckboyism just all out on display, just blah, I would have, I would not have known what to make of that. But we are where we are, and this gives us all a real opportunity to really have some long overdue conversations about cheating in Black American life and what we're going to finally do about it. And I'm really curious to see if we will take advantage of this moment or not. I'm really curious. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays itself out.
When you say take advantage of this moment, what exactly do you mean? What do you think? I guess in your mind, what would be productive steps that I guess the whole of Black America would need to take in order to address this issue?
Well, I think I think the single biggest problem that a lot of Black people have is being honest.
Okay, that's true. Yeah,
I think so much. Well, cheating at its core is about dishonesty, deceit, and so many Black people have such a hard time being honest to each other, honest with themselves. That's going to be the single biggest hurdle. Okay. Is for Black people to be, the fascinating thing about Jaxn to me is if you have been, we'll go along with the argument about him hitting the genetic lottery. We'll just use that for a moment. Okay. So the idea that he hit the genetic lottery, and there is some evidence for that. Being able to pack on muscle and all the rest of it, that is a genetic thing. That does have a genetic component. So let's assume that for the sake of argument, he has hit the genetic lottery. Okay. My thing is this: if you're a guy that has hit the genetic lottery like Jaxn, why lie about it? Why do you need to lie to the ladies? Because I've seen firsthand there are numerous women that want to be with Jaxn for an evening.
Yes.
So why would he need to lie about that? I don't understand that. Even if you buy into the argument that he never got that kind of attention from women before and he got married real young. Okay. All right, fine. But he's in a position to just, cash the wife out and move on with his life. I mean, why did it have to end so messily? Why? I don't get that. I don't understand that.
Well, I wonder if it just has to do with the fact, just the pandering aspect of it, because by him pandering, he was able to also get money off of it. If he was just being honest and, doing his thing, sleeping around, I don't know that he would get as much financial support from ladies. But I think that the pandering Black men don't cheat component of it makes it kind of feeds into that fantasy, and you can get paid off of that. I mean, there's a proven model off of selling hopium to women, and especially Black women. So I wonder if it was just purely for monetary or business purposes.
Well, yeah. Personally, I think that he missed his calling. I think he should have just been a renegade, or a male stripper. But it just more. I guess that's just my thinking. A much more direct route. But yeah, I think that all the extra steps is kind of like superfluous to me.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear that Black women, and here's the other thing too that's really fascinating about all this. So many Black women can't even admit to themselves that the major draw for Jaxn is the looks. They can't admit that to themselves.
I don't understand why that would be difficult. Why that would be. I thought that was like common knowledge.
well, no. When I say I'm talking about Derrick Jaxn's core audience. I'm not talking about us on the outside looking in.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the reason why it's so difficult for a lot of Black women who are in his camp to just admit that that's the key draw is because if they admit that to themselves, then they have to admit that they're every bit as superficial and shallow and frivolous and capricious as many of the black men that they're lambasting. You got to remember, many of these same women lambast black men. We just got finished talking about colorism. Many of these same black women will give black men the riot act about colorism, will give the black men the riot act about body shape and all that sort of thing. So if they admit that they're just as much in the tank, if not more. I mean, because let's be honest about it. And it was a content creator who tried to goad me into a bullcrap debate about Miss Danica Marie being the female Derek Jaxn. I bust out of my almost laughed out of my chair with that notion. It's like, that's ridiculous. There really isn't a black female equivalent to Derek. It is not. So I think if a lot of black women just owned up to that, it would open up a big can of worms. And I think they know that. And I think that's the reason why they stay in denial about it.
Yeah. Denial is a hell of a drug. It truly is.
I mean, because you think about, okay, so let's use and this isn't even a good analogy, but it's probably the closest one I can think of. All right, so some years back, Amber Rose, right? Who, let's be honest about it, her entire career is predicated off her looks. She's talented at nothing. She's not a good singer. She's not a good songwriter. She's not a good actress. She's not, not a good DJ or anything. I mean, it's everything about Amber Rose is predicated on her looks, and good on her for being able to parlay her looks into millions. That, God bless her for that. So when she does this slut walk thing, right? Ladies bought into it, the whole message of the slut walk. But you think any guys are sitting there thinking, yeah, we need to stand up for women and all? They could care less. We care that Amber is there and various states are undressed. That's what we care about. Period. We could care less about all the talking points about the slut walk. And to be brutally frank, we don't want to see all the other ladies out there. We just care that she's there. Hopefully as scantily clad as possible. That's what we care about. My point is, for us guys, it's just not that big of a deal for us to be able to say something like that. Before, I noticed for a lot of ladies, this has been a very good object lesson, because for a lot of ladies, it's very hard for them to just be as balls out with it. And I think that they have a lot of own internal hangups about it. And I think part of the internal hangups is, well, they mark themselves out as hypocrites. Just flat out hypocrites, because you can't say that, you okay with ogling this, conventionally attractive guy on one hand, and then giving the brothers a workout because they like conventionally attractive women on the other. Yeah,
I hear you. And I remember you had made the observation, I think, in one of your books, correct me if I'm wrong, that there is basically information to prove that Black women, a primary factor for them when looking for a mate or a partner is their looks, whereas other ethnicities or other races of women, looks are further down. Not to say it doesn't matter, but a leading trait for them is not necessarily the appearance of a man, whereas Black women, it's a big deal. Even I don't know if you saw this. I was listening to Steph Co. I was thinking about actually doing a whole separate pre-record on this, and she did a breakdown.
You should do a collaboration with her, actually.
Oh, Steph Co?
Oh yeah, that would be a heck of a collab. Y'all should get together and collab. I don't know if I have no idea if it will ever happen, but you should reach out to her and see if y'all could do a collab, because I think that would be very interesting. This is
actually would. Well, you know what I found interesting was she did a video on Derek. If you look at her video on Derek Jaxn, kind of somewhere into that video, she talked about how when she got together with a man, she wanted to be together with somebody who was highly attractive, right, like a 9 or 10. Right. Like, you are turning heads. That's what she wanted to be with.
Right.
This is the same woman who complained about not having pretty privilege and complained about, she's never, you know, she's just accepted that marriage isn't for her and having a relationship isn't for her. So it was so interesting because in that like 15, 30 seconds where she talked about the kind of man that she was planning on marrying, it's wow. So you're wanting a 9 or 10, but then you are admitting that you aren't that. So is the issue the market, or is the issue that perhaps you are putting yourself in a position where you don't belong? You know what I mean?
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that because, you know, BGS Ibmore did a comparison between me and her. And he said, you know, the difference with Obsidian is that he accepts where he is and works with what he has to get what he wants. Whereas STEPHCO doesn't want to accept where she is and work what she has to get what she wants. And to be fair, I have more going for me than STEPHCO does, to be brutally frank. I got more as a man. I have more to work with than she does as a woman to work with. I mean, we can debate whether this is fair or not. But in the economics of human reproduction, a whole lot of a woman's chips are, you know, weighted on the side of her looks, to be brutally frank. There's some other things that she can do to move the needle. You know, attitude plays a lot, chastity plays a lot, agreeableness, and so on and so forth. Those things do matter. But if you don't have a certain looks threshold to begin with, it's going to be a very hard uphill climb. And we've seen this play. I mean, look at LIZZO right now, for example. I mean, she's a really good, and we talked about Gabrielle Union. Gabrielle Union has made money off of her looks from, I would say, all of her career.
All of her career, yeah.
And LIZZO, nobody has ever hired her for, that I'm aware of, has hired her strictly based on her looks. If she was not somebody that was considered, I mean, let's be honest, she was, you know, anointed by the late, great Prince Rogers Nelson. Prince, that Prince. So, and everybody agrees that he's probably the most, you know, musical guy to come down the pike since Amadeus Mozart himself. So, I mean, yeah, if she didn't have that, would we even be talking about LIZZO right now? I think the answer, to ask the question is to answer. So, and she's had nothing but hard times insofar as the guy department is concerned. She's like Steph Co on steroids. She went and shoot a shot at Captain America of all people. I mean, come on. So, you know what I mean? It's like, come on. So yeah, Steph Co is an interesting character because she can get married if she wants to. She just doesn't want to marry who's actually in her lane. And I'm not saying that she should, but what I am saying is that it's going to be very difficult for her to get a man for anything beyond a no strings attached, on the down low, rolling the hay with the kind of guy that she wants. And that is very, for us guys, it wouldn't be no big deal. Like no, you would have few to no guys having a problem with getting with Amber Rose on the quiet for a weekend. Like we were like, all right, that would be down. But for a lot of women, that's for a lot of women, that's like almost insulting.
Yep.
So she's got a really interesting story to tell. Now, did she do a video about Jaxn since the revelations of last month? Because I did see one that she did, and this would have been more than a year ago. So I guess this would have been around the time that the first revelations came out. But I'm saying, but has she done another one since?
She has. I want to say it was the one that she did, and she talked about Derek Jaxn, and then she also talked about Trevor Noah, and which I understand where she's coming from, where it's like he did this whole shout out to how he loves Black women and yet never brings one home at night, like never dates a Black woman. So she covered both of them in the same video. But I thought that was interesting coming from, this is why I was thinking of doing like maybe covering it off. Maybe I will reach out to her and see if she wants to do a live, because what she said in like 15, 30 seconds, I think really speaks to a broader mindset that we're seeing among this, like, for lack of a better term, femcel population. And also, by the way, in that same video or another video, she goes on to talk about how she had a lot of sexual escapades. So that's why it's just like
you're talking about Steph Co now.
Yes.
Steph Co had a lot of Steph Co, you know, basically banged a lot of guys.
She literally said that, yes. And so this is why
that's not helping either.
And this is what I was talking to my husband, and he was just like, you know, when women complain about, you know, pretty privilege, when they complain about not having options, when they complain about being a femcel, it's like, you're rolling your eyes, because being an incel as a man literally means you're not getting any action. Being a femcel as a woman means that you're probably having sex with a lot of different guys, but they're not the guys that you want. Or maybe you're not considered a freaking supermodel, so now you want to be upset. But it's like they're not on equal playing fields. They're not. Like, I firmly believe there are women out there who could essentially get married at whatever level they're at. Like, whatever level they want, there's going to be a man who would be willing to get with them. It's just women tend to be more picky. And rightfully so, as you mentioned earlier, when it just comes on the nature of, dating, mating, and hypergamy. But it's just different. Like, so when I heard that, I was like, that adds a whole nother level of the pretty privilege of, oh, I don't have pretty privilege. It's like, but you've had a lot of male interaction, and you said you wanted a supermodel essentially. So the issue is that from what I can gather, that you can't get the supermodel NFL type that is also intellectual, but also faithful, but also kind, but also loyal. Like,
I'm looking at a channel right now, and 11 days ago, she talks about a holiday hookup.
Who?
STEPHCO.
She did.
I'm looking at a channel right now. I just typed it up. And 11 days ago, she talks about a holiday hookup.
Is incel talking about and I know she doesn't call herself a femcel, but I think she very much speaks on behalf of the femcel, being that so many people resonated with her not having pretty privilege video.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of sad. I do feel sad for Steph Co, because and she keeps putting her, in flagrante moments out in the public. I mean, this is the problem that Brittany Renner is facing. Brittany Renner is orders of magnitude more attractive than Steph Co, and she's crying the blues. What do you think is going to happen with Steph Co?
Well, she's made it clear by her own words and therefore her own actions that she is not planning on getting married, at least from what I gathered. She's planning on not getting married and all this. Now, I don't know. Sometimes you hear this stuff and it's like, okay, are we, like, ladies, are we having these conversations with ourselves because we're self-soothing? Like, do we honestly believe this? Do we honestly believe that, oh, we're going to be fine by ourselves and we're going to be cool, like just being the cat lady? Like, do we honestly believe that? Or are we just trying to convince ourselves and then trying to bring other alongs to help convince us? Like, this is what I notice, especially among and I say the Black female population because we lead in all of these things, right? We lead in not being married. We lead in not getting married, not having a family, all that stuff. Yeah.
You should just get together. Y'all should get together and do that, Cole. That would be interesting. I'll
reach out to her. I would love to hear more of her story. I'll reach out to her and see. Yeah. A shout out to you, Dane C. I see Steph Co grew her audience off of telling her crazy failed dating stories aside from her pretty privileged viral video. Yeah, Steph said she had a hoe. I don't even know.
Had? I'm looking at a video. I'm looking at her page right now, and she's talking about a holiday hookup a week and a half ago. Had?
I watched part of that video. I didn't finish it, but I wouldn't say had. She's at the point of her life now where this is another thing that I noticed, right? And you alluded to this, Mr. Obsidian, how like when women kind of get to a certain age and they maybe figure out, okay, my initial goal or fantasy of getting like a knight in shining armor that's going to be a 10 in all areas, that's not going to exist. And then you get to the point where it's just like, okay, I'm not going to get married, period. Then you may start to be more open to polyamory relationships. Then you might be more open to like swinging. Like you look at these alternative forms of sexuality or sexual expression because you in your mind have convinced yourself like you just can't get married. So,
well, I would say this. This is going to sound bad. So if you study the alternative communities, right? Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that the ladies that are into the alternative life, swinging and polyamory, I'm not saying this is true for every last one of them, but have you noticed that there are few to no real lookers among them?
Well, okay, to be fair, I've never really done a deep dive on the community. So I don't want to speak, I don't want to speak as an expert, but the few that I have seen usually skew older. And usually skew maybe not the most in shape, if I'm just being honest. That's just that's what I could from what I gather. But I haven't done like a.
I'm just being real. I mean, as a general rule, the ladies that tend to be, I'm talking about the ones that are like rah rah shish kumbah, alternative lifestyle, swinging, polyamory, and so on. Those women, as a general rule, I'm not saying this is always true across the board, but generally speaking, they don't tend to be, the upper tier ladies. They tend to be average at best looking.
And that's what I was saying. It's like, okay, is this when you kind of get to the point where you're either not willing to get married or you don't want to get married, right? Like you don't want to accept the fact that dealing with a dude in your level for whatever reason. And instead of doing that, you have to now look for alternative methods. And
I think it's a good thing that Steph Co doesn't want to get married. I think I think she's saving she's saving a lot of time and potentially money. And to be brutally frank, saving some brother out there a lot of heartache and just, aside from heartache, saving a lot of brothers, a lot of, just headaches, to tell you the truth. What brother wants to be, joined at the hip to a lady who has a barely veiled contempt for you simply for existing? So I think it's a good thing that she doesn't get married. She's actually saving 2 lives, hers and some poor schlub out there who doesn't deserve it.
Well, I will say this. I think one of the things, and this is rarely addressed. This is rarely addressed, I think, among Black women, but it's a very real thing. I think one of the reasons there are a lot of Black women out there who feel that they don't have pretty privilege is because not only are they going out of guys who may be considered out of the league. When you want to start doing the whole open your options, dating and mating Brad, that's a whole different level, right? A Black man is going to be willing to get with a dark-skinned woman with maybe natural kinky hair, maybe even she's a little bit of plus size. Like Black men are open to that. You trying to go with an Arab man? You trying to go with a Chinese man, and you think they're going to go for a short, dark-skinned woman with a more rounder nose like that? Not to say that that's not out there, but you're gonna experience more pushback. And I think if you look at the Steph Co, she alluded to growing up somewhat in a middle class environment. I've been in environments that are very mixed. And
Did she go up? When you say middle class, do you mean you just got finished saying a mixed environment? My understanding, is she originally from California?
No, I don't think she said she was from California, but from what I remember, I thought in one of the videos she talked about she grew up in somewhat of a suburban area.
Okay, so and the reason why I ask is because nothing scientific, but I noticed that women who talk the way Steph Co do tend to come, like you said, middle class, suburban, and very either racially mixed or predominantly non-Black, read white,
exactly,
neighborhoods. So that seems to really beat them up a lot.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like your experience, if you were a Black woman in suburbia in a mixed environment or primarily white environment, and the jocks, right, in your school, that's what they call them, are white males predominantly, they're not usually going to be looking for a shorter, dark-skinned woman they're not. Unless it's maybe just like a fling. Like there is like cultural differences. White men are still generally looking for certain things, and Black women are usually not the top of that list. And so
right.
I think when you have these women who are going in and trying to mix or thinking they're going to get perceived just as well as a Becky might be, or just as well as a, Marisol might be in some of these mixed or primarily white environments, they get confused. And I think they walk away with these notions, not understanding how like, hey, race really does play a big difference, because there are plenty of dudes, I mean, I was listening to, I think it was Mr. Z Black, and he's a smaller channel, but I really like his channel. And he was talking about how, like, yeah, there are a lot of members who were just like, oh yeah, I would go with a Steph Co. Like, she's cute to me. Like, plenty of Black guys in there being like, I would give her a chance. And I know some personally who probably on a looks component have no issue with her. So I'm just thinking, I have to wonder how much of this is as a result of you wanting that white guy who ain't into you, is not into Black women, is not into having a whiter nose, wants to have white kids, prefers blondes, and you're not that. And that blonde is the the beauty queen. You know what I mean? Like I and this isn't popular to talk about among Black women. But when they start trying to get and level up into these spaces and level up and integrate into these other spaces, that's what they're going to experience. But they're not willing to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad that that women like Steph Co exist, because the delusion is really, really bad. And but I mean, I'm glad that she was able to find a niche for herself, and she tells her, horror stories, and a lot of Black women can relate to it. And so good on her for that. And hopefully at some point she'll get a clue before it truly is too late. We'll see.
Well, it'll be interesting with more, because more and more women are identifying with this STEPHCO, and so it'll be interesting. Like, if there really is a larger generation who have more of her experience and choose more of that kind of path, it'll be interesting to see if that shapes society, to the point to where maybe there are certain policies that are passed, or there are certain things that are done to help support that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. I'm just really looking forward to, if it ever happens, because she did do a collab with Yanni Red. And so she does do them. So we'll see if she does a collab with you or not. We'll see.
I'll ask. I guess I never thought about it. All I can do is ask, and all that you can say is no.
Yeah.
So I did want to acknowledge real quick. Okay, you know what? Y'all give me 2 seconds. I just realized my computer is on like 2%. So I want to make sure that I can plug my computer in. Also, real quick, guys, get those likes up if you haven't already. Hit that like button, subscribe button. And okay, y'all give me a second. Let me go grab my charger. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I do want to acknowledge Dane C. It says she blames the men she dated for her failure. I think, the normal. It's just normal in general to blame men for whatever relationship failures women have. I think that's just a normal way of denying in general. Obsidian, I don't know what you think about that. If in general.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how far would her channel get if she said, hey, look, the reason why things didn't work out is because of me? I mean, would that really be attractive, to her audience? I would say not likely.
You're right. You're right. It's not as sensational, and it's not as not as appealing, because there's some women out there who just want to find reasons to blame men. And I'm not saying that is her in particular. I haven't watched enough of her content to really be able to have a full scope of like, okay, this is what I think she's about. But anytime you have a woman going online complaining and talking about how men are hard to get along with, you're going to attract female following. It's just the name of the game.
Yeah.
Dane T, it says it's not Steph Co's looks. She comes off as an awkward, entitled, thirsty weirdo in her interaction with men, Black men in particular. I appreciate. That's interesting. So are you talking about like just from what you can gauge from her online, or based upon the different stories that she's told? That's interesting. I mean, I'm not a man, so it's always interesting to see how men perceive other women, or how men perceive other content creators. Because you guys are probably looking for different things. I'm gonna see. I think there was another. Let me see. It's just nice. Okay, so I want to make sure. So there's one last thing I want to review with you real quickly, and then we can wrap this up, because I thought this was really interesting, because to me this speaks to the difference on really how different today's generation is, today's Black woman is, from, say, our grandmothers or great grandmothers. And before I share why, I want to play this really quick, and we can go from there. Okay.
Yeah. While you setting that up, Mr. Bobby Wright in the chat room saying, so she's basically a 5 shooting for a 9. Yeah, she's a 49er. You know, a woman that's a 49er.
No,
yeah.
She literally said that. She was literally like, I want dude. Oh, that's the wrong one. Oops. Yeah, she was like, I want him to be like a head turner.
And the thing about it, I think she's like a school teacher by profession, I believe.
Yes.
So there's like nothing. See, it would be one thing if she had the same looks that she has, but she, she's like, some type of 10% or less, top tier performer, banker, surgeon, something like that. Like, similar to Jesse Williams's first wife. She was like a major mover and shaker in real estate, something like that. I'll be like, okay, what she lacks in the look, she makes up for it in just sheer money and prestige. That would be one thing.
Yeah.
But there's nothing standout about her. Perhaps the only real thing that stand out about her, ironically enough, is YouTube.
Well, and you alluded to this in your book, which I thought was really interesting, where you were saying how for a long time, being an average is not a bad thing. Being an average looking woman, which is, what she calls herself, says that's what her experience is. And a lot of women, a lot of the population in general fits that criteria. There is nothing wrong with average. Average people have been getting married and populating the world and living fulfilling lives for a long time. So there's nothing wrong with that. And especially average, there's plenty of average women out there who have relationships with successful, high value men. Now, an important component of that is understanding how to optimize, right? Optimize when you are at your best stage of life, right? Getting married in college, or really using that opportunity to help network, to get to know people, to spot out husbands. Other cultures generally do this, not saying all of them. Of course, feminism has impacted everyone, but it's still by and large something that is at least taught. I knew a lot of Mormons because the high school that I went to was very diverse, and there was a big Mormon population there. And almost every single Mormon woman you talk to made it very clear that their goals for going to college was to find a husband.
Right.
And so a lot of times these women would graduate with a college degree, and then they would have a kid shortly after and stay at home and raise them.
Right.
And so average looking women, quote unquote, were doing that and have been doing that. And, they get with a man, they build wealth, which is the way most people acquire wealth. And then they live happy lives. So for some reason, that whole strategy that's worked for a very, very long time has been missed from my generation. And the results are not necessarily so pretty, in my opinion.
Yeah. So we'll see how it all goes. I can't wait to see if you guys can actually pull this off. That's what I'm looking for. So
we'll see. Yeah. I would love to hear from her if she's open to it now. Okay, so this is something that I came across. It was a 90-year-old woman talking about her perception of cheating. I thought it was quite interesting. So listen in.
Oops. Okay, Granny, they want to know if the man cheats or if he can't lead, how you supposed to let him lead your relationship? What do you do?
Forgive him. Closest to Roosevelt warned that speaking out for whatever. God forgive us for every sin we commit. Why we can't forgive? If you want to be like God, you got to forgive regardless to what anybody do to you. Your husband, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and all the people in the world, forgive them and turn it over to King Jesus.
Okay, Granny.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting because now I know she used a lot of, she talked a lot about her faith in Jesus, but just in general, I know from what I've heard, her generation, I know that'll be the silent generation, but her generation, the status quo was kind of like, okay, if he cheats, you just kind of figure it out. Like divorce was not really a big thing. Cheating obviously happens and impacts people, but I think the cultural expectation is that women were just going to stay. And I don't know if this is why in silent generation you had more marriages, if this is why you had people staying together longer, but her the way that she rationalized that to me was so interesting because it is completely against anything that we would hear from today's modern women. I'm assuming she was married. I wonder how long she was married.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to, that leaves a lot of question, but what is your thought after hearing a 90-year-old woman, the silent generation, her perception of cheating versus the perception that we have of cheating today?
Well, I think it's fair to say that the ladies of the present day will take a different view. I
Yeah.
think they will likely hold a different view than the lady there. Many ladies of our era seem to be more on the line of what
Gabrielle Union?
Gabrielle Union, yeah. Thank you. They seem to be more along the line of what Gabrielle Union is on than a lady in the TikTok video is on. So,
which, by the way, I don't agree with. I don't think a man making less than you gives you a right to be dishonest or to cheat. I don't see any correlation whatsoever. It's like, if that was a problem, then don't marry the guy.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
don't say I do and take vows that you're going to be faithful. So I don't see that as a good reason as a woman to cheat just because dude makes less money than you. I don't buy that.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how it all shakes itself out. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, so do you have are there any other things that you want to mention just in regards to cheating in Black America? How it impacts women, how it impacts men, just any other things that you kind of want to raise to the audience?
I do. There are 4 major reasons why Black women cheat, and this is very important. Okay. In the study that I mentioned earlier about the 3 Black women, they are in order of importance. Number 1, sexual pleasure. Number 2, partner infidelity. In other words, getting back at your partner for cheating on you. Number 3, sex exchange, ask for cash. And number 4, past main partners have got to go get that old thing back. So yeah. Pretty deep. Pretty deep. I lay it all out in the book.
Yeah.
3rd chapter of the book, and it repays close study.
I tend to think as women take on more traditionally masculine roles and fight for the freedom to do so, then we're going to continue to see cheating be more of a norm. I wonder if it'll ever get to the point that women surpass men in cheating. I wonder if we'll ever get to that point. Not that I wish for that, but that would be curious.
Yeah. It will be very, very interesting. Very interesting indeed. We'll see. We'll see how it plays itself out.
Yeah. Shout out to you again, Hakeem, for being a great moderator. I see Tia Mowry has entered the Wait, I'm trying to understand. Tia Mowry has entered the room. Yeah, guys. So if you haven't already, be sure to check out his book. He breaks down just this whole topic of cheating and how it directly impacts Black America in his latest book, the Book of Obsidian, Ladies Edition. So be sure to check it out. Are there any other final words you have, Mr. Obsidian, before I wrap this thing up?
Yeah, we need to have a lot more conversations about this. I think that if there is one good thing to come out of the Derek Jaxn fiasco, and I suspect that this is like only the end of the beginning with him. If there is something good to come out of it, it can be this, that we can finally have, some pretty good conversations. So that's what I'm hoping. So we'll see.
With that, I agree. I think honesty is important. Now, I personally hold the position that in order for a person to not cheat, it's something that they have to want to do themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if societal or cultural pressure will make a person cheat more or less. I don't know. I don't have the studies behind that, but I just think at the end of the day, if a person wants not to cheat, they're going to put themselves in a position and do whatever they need to do to maintain themselves. If they are a cheater at heart, it don't matter what's going on. They could be with the best partner or the worst partner. If they in their heart are just a cheater, they're going to do it, period. Yeah. So I think conversations are good. I don't know what impact, or I'd be curious to see, okay, what impact a more open and honest dialogue would have on actually improving those numbers, if at all.
We'll see. You know, time will tell. We'll see.
A lot of time will tell. Well, again, this was good, Mr. Obsidian. I appreciate you coming on. You guys be sure to check out his book. Check out his channel also if you haven't done so already. And yeah, thanks for hanging out.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, you take care.
You too. Thank you.
All right, guys. So this is a fun one. I'm still trying to understand that that topic, but maybe I'll reach out to Steph Co and see if she would be down to do a collaboration or do an interview. I would love to hear from her. From what I've heard, some of the things I don't totally agree with, but I don't pretend to be an expert on all of her point of view, so I don't want to mischaracterize, but that would be a fun collab if she was open to talk, if she was open to chat. So maybe I'll give it a go and see if she is down to do that. Also, guys, stay tuned for other upcoming content. I appreciate those of you guys who have been here hanging out with me. Be sure to hit that like button if you have not already. As always, share this with someone they think may find it interesting. We have other upcoming lives and topics and interviews coming up. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you are notified each time I go live or a video drops. And I'm trying to think, without further ado, that's all I got for now. And yeah, guys, we'll talk later. Okay, bye.